has been almost 6 months now since Jocelyn Smith went missing on the 19th of February. She's one of more than 16,000 kidnappings recorded annually by Stats SA. A staggering 85% of kidnapping cases are women and children. Well, let's take this conversation further. We are joined by Tebogo Mashilompane, who is Save South Africa's communication director, who joins me now to take this conversation further and really look at what needs to be done. Tebogo, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start actually with Jocelyn Smith, because this is certainly a case that had, the country watching, really concerned, community members in the area in Saldanha Bay also up in arms. Are you optimistic 6 months later that there is a chance that Jocelyn Smith could be found?
Yeah, greetings to you, Naledi, and also the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. And we remain hopeful. We are the people of faith. We believe that should anything possible be done by law enforcers, we believe that it is possible. There are people who've been found after some years. The only thing that, hurt us the most is something that we don't even want to think about. Whether will Jocelyn Smith be found alive, that is something else. And we don't even want to think about it. But we believe that if the resources are channeled to investigating and looking for this beautiful child, I think we can find her.
Yeah, 16,000 kidnappings recorded annually. I mean, that's an alarming number. Is this an upsurge? Let's start there, right? Is this a higher number than what we have previously seen in other years, perhaps decades before? And also, what do you think is behind some of these high numbers?
Look, there are two things that we've observed as an organization. This human trafficking, one, it happens within our own country. That's number one. Number two, it happens because of the porous borders. Now when somebody's missing in the country, we don't even know whether to look inside or to look outside. That is the greatest challenge that we find ourselves now. That is why, even if we're optimistic and having faith that we'll find the child, but we are also sensitive to the fact that we must have a room for disappointment, because when a child is outside the country, the chances are, we might not be able to find that particular child. So, as I mentioned, two things happen. Within the country, people from rural areas are being taken there, especially those kids who are staying with their grandmothers who are very old, and then they can walk on the street, go to shops and all those things, play with other kids, and then 2 minutes later the child is missing, and the parents of the child are nowhere to be found. So it's a challenge. It's our social issue that we really need to look into it very seriously. But I also want to say, we have authorities, who's sleeping on duty, because I mean, when you look back before the past 5 years back, before then, the kidnapping cases and abduction cases were a little bit lower. But now we see the increase, and when we see the increase, we are also told by the budget to say, no, we've increased the budget to fight this. But the money does not fight crime. The money does not fight human trafficking. So we need to have people dedicated specifically to deal with this issue. And we did make mention the fact 2 weeks back to the president that, can you call for a state of emergency with regard to crime in general, including this ones of kidnapping and so forth? Because honestly, we've been investing money in this particular crimes, but do we see results? We are not seeing any results.
There's so much to talk about, because, I mean, obviously we're talking about whether or not this is an upsurge, but international stats, and I want you to listen to this data, right? International stats reported that South Africa quite likely has the highest kidnapping rate on the continent. I mean, that's really quite telling, right? And that's according to Statista, which reports on international criminal activity. The highest kidnapping rate in South Africa. And then, of course, there's the issue around whether or not law enforcement takes missing persons very, very seriously. I mean, there are, of course, concerns around whether or not where a woman or a child goes missing, for instance, are those cases in some areas dismissed or seen as runaways?
Yeah, you are so right. You know, we are also number 6 internationally. You know, out of 10 countries, we are number 6. So that must tell you that actually nothing has been done. You know, we are not we are not taken by this Hollywood style of exposing things by the police. You know, they'll just expose one there and make a huge sound about it. And then whereas there are other cases that are there, because remember, there are also dark figure crimes. Those are crimes that are not reported, you know, and it is, you know, it's a problem on its own, because you know, people will just put it, wrap it and say, no, we'll do it ourselves, and then someone will opt to look for PIs, private investigators,
Yep.
to do the stuff, because they realize that, you know what, the law enforcers have failed us. And when we say that, we are also careful to say there are also individuals within the men and women in blue that are doing their job, but unfortunately, they are opposed by a group of people who are also part of this clique, who are part of this circle of crime, because they use them to do this nonsense that is currently happening. So we are saying, from us, we are saying the police and the authorities, actually the authorities have folded their arms, because you cannot say to me now, we've got a stats in 2023 that says at least every 5 hours one child is missing.
Sure.
We're talking about 2023. We are in 2024, and then you do nothing about it. You say, no, we are dealing with the issue. Despite the fact that you are even calling to the president, we send a letter to say, the president, this country is in the hands of criminals. We made that call. We said that the country is in the hands of criminals. We see these things daily, you know, and you know, the problem, the reason that these people in power, they are not doing anything, it is because they live well. They've got security guards. Their children also have security guards. They drive them to schools. And then now you go to townships and villages. Those kids have to travel 5 kilometers to go to school, and then go through bushes. And some of them are as early as 8 years old, 6 years old, and then they're walking, because the grandparents won't take the kids to the school. They have to walk on their own. So what type of a society is this one?
Yeah, I'm almost thinking about that little boy in the Western Cape who, and you perhaps remember the story of the little boy who was not allowed on the bus because he didn't have the bus ticket and then had to walk home for hours on end. I think it was something like 8 to 10 hours. Yeah, 50 kilometers to get home, and just how vulnerable he was in that position. That, you know, anything could have happened. He could have been taken, and the reality that you're talking about. Where's the lower hanging fruit then, right? Then, which are the departments that you feel need to be coming to the party? I mean, is it, you know, I think of perhaps, you know, the Department of Education around scholar transport. I think of the Home Affairs Department and needing to tighten up what's happening in our borders. Who's dropping the ball and what needs to be done? What's the lower hanging fruit?
With us, the starting point is intelligence, because we believe intelligence must be in all the departments. For an example, when I'll just give this example, but I'm not running away from the point.
Sure.
So look at the Libyans case. 95 people are saying we are coming to South Africa to study security studies, but you don't see any red flag there. So meaning there's no intelligence in Home Affairs. If the intelligence is there, it means it's closed down. It is not in operation. It is just an empty office. So our issue is, start with the intelligence. Can you revive the spirit of intelligence in this country? Because clearly there's no intelligence in our country. Because if there was intelligence, we'll know when these criminals are planning, we'll know that there's a syndicate that is strictly directed at these kids. They're trying to steal these kids and take them outside and use them for other issues of commercial sex crimes and so forth. But because we have an intelligence that is sleeping, That is the problem, because we believe that every department should have intelligence, be it in education. Department of Basic Education must have intelligence within. The Department of Home Affairs must have intelligence within. So, but if we are going to say the intelligence is in the office of the president, it's more like we are saying the intelligence only works with the president, and all this other department must see to it that everything works well. And then how do you expect the people in the Department of Education to be able to be sensitive, also to understand and see that something is happening when there is no intelligence? Because it is the intelligence that must inform them to say there's 1, 2, 3, but we don't have that in the country. We used to have intelligence before. We used to be scared as children when we were taught about the intelligence. We are taught that, you know what, whatever you say, you might be saying to a wrong person. You find out that person is an intelligent, is coming from intelligence. But today, you know, we don't have those things. So how are we going to win this war without intelligence? You know, when you go to Zimbabwe, for an example, when you enter the airport, they already know who you are, where you are coming from, without even saying many things. But why not here? Why not in South Africa? Why are we selling our children? Because these were actually handing over our children on a silver platter to this barbaric people who just come here and just want to use these kids for their own benefit. We must understand that these criminals, they sold their souls. They don't even think about the consequences. They are just saying, we want these kids, we sell them, we get the money, then we go. So the law enforcement should be very harsh on the criminals. As long as we still treat them like babies, even when we arrest them, we put them in prison, we give them 3-course meal. You know, I was so angry during the week when we inquired about a certain prison, and then they say every day they've got 3-course meal, they've got a fruit every day. But I say, in the schools, please don't have breakfast. In other schools, some, they only eat lunch and then they go home. But in prison, people can eat whatever they want. That is why they'll continue with this nonsense of crime in our country, and especially attacking our children, who are supposed to be the future of tomorrow. Because when you destroy a child, you destroy the future of this country.
Right.
And that is what is happening at the moment.
Yeah, you know, you've made such an impassioned plea, and we really do appreciate the time that you've given us. Thank you so much for speaking to us.